Today is May 3rd, Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum starts its operation today. My name is Vasil Samokhvalov, and now we will be talking about this year's Eurovision. Eurovision, which should have taken place in Ukraine, but it will be taking place in Great Britain. But Ukraine is involved in the organization as well. So whom are we going to be talking to? First, Emine Dzhaparova, First Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Halyna, Hryhorenko, Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine. Volodymyr, Sheiko, Director General of the Ukrainian Institute. And joining us a little bit later will be Jamala, Ukrainian singer who won the Eurovision Song Contest in 2016. So we're waiting for her. So Eurovision. Not in Ukraine, but I know for sure, but we are somehow deeply involved in organization of this song contest. We're taking active part. We're planning to promote Ukraine, to promote Ukrainians, Ukrainian participants. So how is it going to be happening? So let's start with Emine Dzhaparova. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear friends, dear journalists. It's my pleasure to be here to tell you about the holiday during the war, how we try to manifest the life through those challenges that we as a country, as a society are witnessing. And it's crucial for us to have Ukraine being felt just like we feel it. And just in a couple of days we will find out who will be the winner of this marvelous song contest, Eurovision, which due to the reasonable circumstances cannot be taking place in Ukraine, but due to a coincidence of events it will be taking place in Liverpool, in a country which is a great partner of Ukraine in both military area, diplomatic, economic, and I want to thank our British partners that even here they manifest this support to Ukraine. The motto of Eurovision this year is United by Music, and we feel it on all levels of organization. A powerful team. Many years ahead they started their preparation. The Ministry of Culture and Information Policies, the Institute of Ukraine, our diplomats, our embassies, our representative offices, they work intensively on a range of tasks that we will tell you about today. Great Britain allocated £3 million so we could have our Ukrainian projects there, so that Ukraine is seen, so that people can find out about Ukraine, not only through the holiday, because we understand that Eurovision is focused on this festival, on the music. There will be thousands of free tickets disseminated among Ukrainians, those who reside in Britain and neighboring countries, so that they're able to visit that song contest. We were trying in planning of our work and implementation of our projects to approach practically to complex promotion of Ukraine in all areas. And from 3rd to 14th of May there will be Ukrainian Boulevard established in Ukraine. There will be 26 chalets in total, and 6 of them will be dedicated to Ukraine. 3 will be devoted to fashion and Ukrainian cuisine, and 1 more dedicated to promotion of Ukraine. So what's gonna be going on there? We partnered with famous Ukrainian designers, Vola shop, which is located in London, which collected gathered our best designers from Ukraine, and they will represent different merchandise which promotes Ukraine, so that everybody who visits that boulevard could buy something that symbolizes modern Ukraine, free Ukraine, democratic Ukraine. So we appreciate the input of all of our partners, specifically Vola, who got involved in this collaboration. Also, we think that during such promotion events it's important to talk about cuisine. You know that recently we celebrated that borscht was documented as a Ukrainian dish, together with the team of Yevhen Klopotenko, who prepared the dossier, the file. So now UNESCO recognizes borscht as the Ukrainian dish, just like all Ukrainian dish, just like the rest of the world. So Yevhen Klopotenko will be cooking marvelous borscht with smoked pears. He will cook chebureks, the Crimean tatar dish, We will try to demonstrate Ukraine through the culinary traditions of different regions of Ukraine, and we hope that it will raise more awareness about our country, will bring more attention, because Ukraine should be known not only through historic context but through the taste of it, not only through those complicated episodes of history that we're going through. Also, since Ukrainian Institute is affiliated to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they prepare 24 Ukrainian projects, including 19 in collaboration with British artists, and Volodymyr will tell you in more detail about those projects. But the peak of promotion of Ukraine will be the concert of Jamala. It was being prepared for a number of years. She was gathering different pieces of music from different corners of Crimea, so this album will premiere on the 11th of May during Eurovision in Liverpool, and a week earlier in Kyiv, so everybody may touch this Crimean music. Jamala will be singing with BBC Philharmonic Orchestra, so our partners are quite serious in this project. And getting back to this Ukrainian boulevard, which will be called Discover Ukraine, that will be the first time when we will present Ukraine UA, an interactive space in cooperation with Brand Ukraine, a public organization. So we launched this website, Brand UA, which is a digital window where everything is represented, what we want to know the people around the world to know about Ukraine, about its culture, his history, all the specters of public diplomacy for promotion of Ukraine, so that Chalet will focus on interactive capabilities, because we were thinking that it's important to talk about difficult pages of our history, but not from the point of view of despair, but rather as a strong nation which is capable to win in the contest regardless of the war, to manifest the dignity. And this is something that makes us a nation, which makes us different from Russian Federation. That's it for me. Thank you very much. So you just told us about the diplomatic front, and now let's proceed to the cultural front. Maybe I will ask you to pass the microphone to Ms. Halyna. Well, this is how we planned it, that Volodymyr will wrap up the MFA part, and then we'll proceed to Ms. Halyna. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention to today's topic. Dear colleagues, I will tell more about the cultural program of this year's Eurovision, which is a peculiarity, I would say, of this year's contest, which is happening in honor and on behalf of another country and our British partners, being really one of the most consistent partners of ours around the world. Let our Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian artists and other actors of art to present their works during Eurovision contest, and not just in the format of one-sided presentation, but mostly as collaboration with British artists. And for the most of the participants of this festival, the Eurofest, these collaborations with British party will be happening for the first time. So the selection for the Eurofest, which will represent 24 projects, was made as an open bid of projects where both Ukrainian and British participants could take part, and they were submitting their ideas of the projects. They were not accomplished projects, so for that time they were submitted as concept, and in November, December we selected the applications, 30 applications out of 700, which first received the stipend to accomplish their concept together with the British colleagues, and then the shortlisted projects, 24 of them, received the funding in amount from 25 to 125,000 pounds sterling, depending on the scale of the project, for its production and any accompanying costs the Eurofest. So before Eurofest there was a year of cultural events. It was a culmination of Ukrainian cultural events during which British Council and Ukrainian Institute worked jointly in a number of British cities starting from the April 22. So full-scale invasion did not hinder us from making 3 dozens of different theatrical cinematic events, cultural panels on different cultural platforms in different parts of Britain. So this Eurofest is the culmination of 1 year work to have British public, British professional audience to find out more about Ukraine, and so that British society is more aware what are the values pursued by Ukraine, what do they support economically, politically and militarily. The role of Ukrainian Institute in this preparation of Eurofest was to provide proper optics for our British partners on what cultural expressions of Ukraine should be demonstrated in Liverpool during the song contest, because the concept of British party. Well, welcome Jamala. Please take your seat. Good afternoon, everybody. The initial concept was that it should be mass entertaining project in traditions of other previous editions of Eurovision, and when we started the dialogue with the British partners around this, we thought that it's not quite the right optics through which we should organize any cultural events, because the Ukrainian reality, both its tragic dimensions and joyful dimensions, should be expressed during those projects. And during our prolonged conversations with our British partners, we tried to convince them that they should not focus on the entertainment content, but to give more voice to Ukrainian artists who would translate those incredible difficulties that Ukrainian society is going through now, and the bravery it demonstrates to the world. And we are happy that we were heard. And among the projects that will be represented during the contest, there will be a couple of them home, which researches the idea of home, the lost home, the new home, the acquired home, or a home that we're used to live in our whole life through Ukrainian photography, through its unification with British poetry, Ukrainian photographers, curators of Ukrainian photography, and modern poets from different places of Britain will be invited for that part of context. Another is the black and white opera Chernobyl-Dorf, which was presented in Ukraine and abroad already. So during this cultural season of Ukraine in Britain, we showed this opera during the main festival of the contemporary music, Huddersfield Contemporary Music Festival, and this opera gathers such reviews in the British media as one of the most overwhelming views in modern cultural history. It's the modern Ukrainian masterpiece that everyone should see. So good, reputable press of the Great Britain will help us bring more attention to this opera in Liverpool. It's an exhibition by Alevtina Kahidze in her tandem with British artist, and obviously Jamala's project that she will tell you in more detail later. The video installation by Katya Prochaska, a Ukrainian artist, which is called From Izum to Liverpool, is the video installation that recreates in video the path that people were overcoming while moving from east to west, from Izum to the very border to Poland, border with Poland, and we appreciate the input of Ukrzaliznytsia in support of creation of this performance. There will be rife with the open rave called Rave Ukraine, with open video translation, great sculptural space, sculptural installations looking like birds, which are supposed to recreate the traditional ornaments like embroidery and musical ornaments folk music inherent in different regions of Ukraine. So those birds are already installed. Yeah, right, they are already installed in Liverpool, and our co-organizer says they're right, as they attract a lot of attention from both children and adults, from those who come to Eurovision already. So there's a number of very cool projects contemplated, which represent a broad range of genre and types of art, and we hope that it will deliver the messages that we want to have them delivered to the public. Serious messages, serious voice of Ukraine, not in entertaining manner, but just the voice of Ukraine. I want to add a little bit. We prepared some merch, a high kind of steel. There will be a photographic zone where Ukrainian chalets will be located, who will tell about Ukrainian society, country, and history. So this photo zone, it follows the sun, like the visual figure of heart of steel. It represents who we are as a nation. And to add a couple of words of appreciation to our British colleagues, because during this week when the Eurovision contest will be going on, dozens of British embassies together of Ukrainian artists will have cultural events dedicated to Ukraine throughout the world. So there will be diplomatic corps, mass media, decision makers from different countries, which will visit this window provided by the Britain. They will give their optics of Ukrainian culture, the vision of Ukrainian history in different parts of the world, like this. Please, Mr. Tana. The colleagues described what will be happening, so I will start from the very beginning why Eurovision is important to us as a platform. It's seen by 160 million spectators throughout the world, so for Ukraine it was very important to have the voice of Ukraine there, our vision, our music, so that it would seem that this contest is going on in Ukraine due to the circumstances that we all understand. It could not have happened in Ukraine, but we appreciate this message by the British government, that they have this Eurovision contest in Liverpool on behalf of Ukraine, not as with Ukraine as a participant. And we have a lot of video footages from all the corners of Ukraine. They will be on the screens, and one of the co-hosts will be Halyna, who will be on the stage for all the time, and there will be the works of our video production creative industries, photos, cartoons, the photo imprints of important things that will be reflected on the screens for those 160 millions of Eurovision. Everything was done in collaboration with Ukrainian artists, Ukrainian creative entrepreneurs, so it's utmostly important for us to be present there on one hand, and on the other hand to explain why is it happening. So, like Volodymyr said, it's the first time in the history of Eurovision when it's being held in the territory of another country from on behalf of a different country. We emphasized it during our conversations in BBC and DCMS to have the word war sounding from the stage, and it's important for us. Eurovision always postulated that they are apolitical and there should be no political messages sounding from the stage, from the scene where there are songs, there are artists competing, but we've been heard, and we are happy to have this reason, this word sounding from the scene, from the stage, united by music, celebration. Those are very important messages, but we have to remember thanks to whom we continue this fight, thanks to our armed forces and our partners. So those messages are very important to us. To add to those events that will be happening in Liverpool, along with a number of parallel initiatives, you know, when the King was opening this countdown to the beginning of Eurovision. It was announced about the sistership between Liverpool Library and Odessa Universal Regional Scientific Library, named after Hryhorenko. That's yet another platform to draw everyone's attention. We use all opportunities to attract attention to our artists, to Ukrainian culture, to those who created these works that will be presented in Liverpool during the full-scale invasion. And maybe Chernobyl will be the only project that was created a number of years ago, and they continue touring around the world. The rest of the projects were created by the people who were living through a tragic experiences today. So this is what's important for us, to continue to give the stage to those artists who continue working in Ukraine, who continue creating Ukrainian cultural content and product, and help popularize Ukrainian product abroad. It's a pleasure for us that Jamala has picked Kyiv as the platform for presentation of her new album, and Liverpool will be the second one. So we invite everybody to the concert of Jamala, because involvement of National Symphonic Orchestra is very important to us, because it will be sounding as the musical archaeology what Jamala has done in the very heart of the capital. And it's important to represent the multicultural aspect of Ukraine. We're not talking about the nation of Ukraine, but we're talking about multicultural people, democratic, tolerant, who fight for democratic values, not only protecting our land, but protecting our rights to be free, to be who you want. This is what Eurovision is about, the freedom of creativity, the freedom of speech. Those are the values that Eurovision is trying to translate throughout the world. So get involved, vote, and we will hope for some first places in the contest. Thank you, Jamala. You've been doing the introduction a couple of times. We would like to find out more details now. Good afternoon, everybody. I want to say in the same way about how it all started. It was starting with hope, because without the hope, without the dream, you have nothing. And for me, it all started with my belief in Ukrainian Crimea, and I honestly wanted to tell and to show through the music the history of Crimea, that it came alive right in front of your eyes. Well, you may say we don't know Crimean language, and let's be honest, the topic of Crimea became a niche topic within these 9 years, so it was important for me to recreate you in front of my eyes, and this is how I started the work on this album. And it consists of the 14 ancient Crimean Tatar songs, which are more than 100 years old, and they tell about different corners of Ukrainian Crimea: Yalta, Akhmechet, it's Simferopol, Akhyar, Sevastopol. And recently there was a decree on return of the authentic names, authentic toponyms. And in the same way, I was using only the real names of the cities, cafe, like Theodosia. And now we see 14 different places in Crimea. And through those stories, the real stories of the people, from Yalabaili, those who were living along the shore, Alushta, Sudakh, Yalta, to Tativ, those who were living in Akhmechet, currently Simferopol, to Nagaev, Kerch, Chankoy. And every single song tells about the unique story, from drama of a girl who is waiting for her fiancé through the window, but she doesn't see him coming. Well, and one may say nothing special, like in the modern world, a boy keeps walking, and that's it. But back then people were trying to get married in their small communities, and if they don't find a fiancé in their small community, it grows into a big drama. From drama Kyiv, which tells the story when she is on the way from Hoskuta Privetme, and we know that a person who writes, when I found that song, I was so uncomfortable, as if I found some personal letters, some personal diary. So the words are, I feel so bad, so difficult here on earth, I wanna kill myself, I miss my homeland, but now we throw such words around like I want to kill myself. But imagine, it's century 8. A person who confesses Islam, they cannot verbalize it. And we understand either this person is already dead and they dare to make that step, and so on and so forth. And there are the songs about life, about Alim Aydamah, who was like Ustim Karmeluk, a Robin Hood who was fighting for rights of the poor, who was fighting the government and the belief in people. The people believed him, so that if you say in the market, have you heard that Alim is dead, you would be answered, no, that can't be true. Like we may say today, I'll tear you apart for saying something bad about the armed forces of Ukraine. So every song is saturated with this life, tragedy, drama. And then there was a demand, I was building it in unification with symphonic paint as the language understood to the world, the monumental symphonic paint with more than 80 musicians, having them united with the ethnic musical groups, the Crimean theater musicians, tube, kaval, dare, trumpet, violin, everything is united, everything is mixed, and it creates the fabric of that record. And for me, as you, Ms. Halyna, said, it was important it was crucial for the first time to premiere this album in Kyiv. Just until I cannot play it in Crimea, until we have rockets and missiles incoming. Today it was 21 or how much. Every day we have these missiles incoming and other projectiles, other weapons. Every day we do something in our rear, and we do it to the, I apologize for pathos, but we do it on international level. We're not in a position of begging, because we fight for real. We want all the world to hear how creative we are, how talented, how young we are as a country who continues with its deed to prove that we fight for our right to live in our land. So right, the presentation will be on Friday in the Opera Theater, and availing myself of this opportunity, I want to express my appreciation of the input of all the ministers for believing in me. When I was coming to you personally, I was telling you my plan, and you know, just like a small animal wraps it all in a foil. Well, it was not quite clear, only I knew how to have everything of it united. All of the parts united, what I really want, what I want to express by my album. And I want to say that the history is going on. You may take our lands, you may put our people to prisons, but through those songs we will stand up from ashes again and again, and that Crimea is Ukraine, it's no doubt. And you may ask how they will understand it. They will understand it through those songs, through those stories, through this piece of art. And if Russian Empire was doing a lot to debunk the real history, they were trying to impose a myth, like they say that the Ukrainians emerged as a nation thanks to Lenin, in the same way that the Tatars, they emerged as a nation in 13th century, and they just brouhaha in your face. And I want every Ukrainian to see themselves as the part of Crimea. Bring Crimea back to yourself mentally, first of all. I don't want you to return Crimea back to Ukraine for the sake of Chebureks and the sea. I want you to bring back the history so you feel yourselves the descendants of Huns, Cimmerians, Towers, Scythes, that one may say this is a global history and you're just standing aside. No, it's yours. We want to get this ourselves relieved of colonization, of this colonial state. Pushkin was sitting there, the Livadia Palace. No, that's different. This is where Ali Maidamach with his guerrillas was fighting, and he was doing the same thing that our military are doing now, and our guerrillas are doing now in Crimea, making that cut and the explosions. And I want to tell it through my music ways with full submergence in music. I did it to the best of my capabilities. On the 5th of May it will be on all the streamings, it will be presented throughout the world, and on 11th I will present it with the BBC orchestra. It's an incredible event because one may not understand something. One may think that BBC Philharmonic Orchestra, they have their schedule 3 years ahead, and the fact that they propose some additional rehearsals by themselves, they were ignited by that idea. It was terrible for me to sing in front of the audience of 20,000 people and to sing an album in Crimean Tatar language. It's horrific to me. It feels horrific, but I want them to really understand that there are Crimean Tatars, Jews, Georgians in Ukraine. Regardless of the ethnic origin, we're all Ukrainians. Absolutely all of us. Thank you. Thank you. Before we proceed to the questions from the floor, I have a question. I have an impression that Ukraine keeps changing the Eurovision itself, because it started when Jamala was claimed that she had a political manifest rather than her performance, and now there is a victory that resulted in Eurovision taking place in a different format. Now they are not afraid of the word war. So how it will change after the victory of Tvorchi? Well, are you asking me? Well, I'm asking all of you, all the panelists. Well, I have no concerns at all, because it's Ukrainian Eurovision in Liverpool. This is just how it happened, and I was sending Tvorchi there, and I just want them to have a good performance, no matter whether they win or not. But what I can say that every day, on the 5th, for example, I will be playing this concert, and on the night I will be driving to Rzeszów, and from Rzeszów I'm flying to Liverpool, and on the 6th I'm having the events related to Ukraine already. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Crimea, 12, 13th. On 13th I sing during the final every day with no exclusions. I'm having events, conferences, interviews, and so on and so forth. This is what's important. And again, how many Ukrainian events will be going on there? All of them that you listed. It's incredible that we can show Ukraine like this and like that, like pop music, academic, folklore, fashion, cuisine, everything. It's very cool. And the fact that it's Liverpool as a musical center from where Beatles were originating, so the people will be coming there, not like average people, I think, but really the appreciators, the connoisseurs who really want to know, really want to find out. So I think this is the victory already. I will add that I absolutely believe that Ukraine is a trendsetter in the world in all areas that we may imagine, cultural, diplomatic, arts sphere. We are driven by the slogan that there is nothing impossible, and it comes true because we couldn't imagine a year ago that we would be able to have Abrams and Patriot defense systems. It was unimaginable a year before. Now they are here, and I hope that thanks to them we will lose. Well, the main thing is that we want to oust Russia from 25 international organizations. We will stop different events that Russia was planning in different contexts. It was not obvious a year ago, but it's coming closer now. Russian Federation usurped the place in a permanent place in the Security Council of United Nations. They made a way around all the procedures that were contemplated by this statutory requirements of United Nations, and it has grown not only into toxic but radioactive state. They are ahead of Iran in terms of sanctions, in terms of all the evil doing. And what Jamala said, I think that if we set some ambitious tasks in front of us, and we've grown out of these post-colonial pants, and this is something that is born from the inside. This is how we can tell about ourselves, and this contest is one of the big pages of our history of victory. In response to your question, I would say that we have changed Eurovision in a number of things, even this year, and we've changed it in a number of levels. Like the attitude to apolitical contests, we switched them to political, because everywhere where the flag is of a country is present, it's already political. Even the Olympic Games, no matter what we say that we're talking about the music, we're talking about the sport, but it's not so. Ukraine changes this attitude throughout the world, because what we do is political by its nature, first of all, and it's politically important to draw everyone's attention to this. I agree with Jamala. It doesn't matter what will be the place of Tvorcha this year. We've already won this Eurovision, because it's Ukrainian Eurovision, no matter where it happens, but it's Ukrainian. Mr. Volodymyr, thank you very much. I also would like to witness that the attention to Ukraine, in fact, by the teams which organize Eurovision, it's phenomenal. All of our experience of previous months of cooperation with them, it says that the British partners treat us as equal. When we were preparing the cultural program of Eurovision, they were saying us, which country do you want us to represent to the guests of Eurovision? We have some fragmentary imagination of who you are as a nation, what are your cultural symbols. We have some stereotypes, but in this cultural program we want you to guide us, and with the help of their resource, their capabilities, the center of attention, it moved to Ukraine eventually. So it's not like they tell everybody about us with their words. And in this cultural program, all these events will be going on in top cultural platforms of Liverpool, and not only Liverpool. So Blue Coat Theatre, Unity Theatre, public spaces, different monuments, prominent monuments in Liverpool that will be covered with these sandbags as a symbol of our resistance, our resilience. is a gesture of solidarity, the demonstration that they are ready to provide us with their central institutions, platforms to have our Ukrainian voice heard, and it's another confirmation, another proof that the subjectivity of Ukraine will be demonstrated to the full extent. We're not someone who asks or begs. We on part demonstrate our modern culture in its very broad diversity, and this is what is going to be seen by multi-million audience both inside the city and outside. And the city of Liverpool is a port city, it's an open city, open to diversity. You have to remember it, to the context with the world, and I think this is the perfect location to have both the denizens and the Ukrainians interested in this event. So we're happy to be involved in this program. The program has started already. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it. It started on the 1st of May, and it will continue until the 13th. Now we may proceed to the questions from the floor. Nadia Yurshenko, Ukrinform. Good afternoon. It was mentioned that there will be the word war sounded from the stage, but what do we want to tell Europeans during the second year of war? What emotions do we want to call in themselves? Maybe they want to get themselves relieved from the war, and we reminded them. Well, now there is one narrative, one myth developed. It is consciously being imposed by Russian propaganda about Ukraine's fatigue. You can hear it in some European countries even, but mostly somewhere in the global south, for example. And when we were thinking about this Chalet Ukraine UA, that will interactively tell the story of how we live now, what are the challenges that we overcome now. So we define this motto as what we are fighting for. This is what we want to tell about. A strong position. Why are we fighting? What do we want? And it's the stance of not of those who ask, but we want to say that those who stand by our side stand on the right side of the history. This is the right message. Well, what I want to add is that we may talk about the war indirectly with the number of those who perished, with the numbers of weapons which were provided to us by our partners, but we may also express it through the art, and it's a powerful voice because the projects that were picked by our experts, for example, the project of Katya Buchaska is in Liverpool. It's a story of a person who lost their home in the occupied territory. Now it's deoccupied already, but anyway, those personal stories, they tell more profoundly what the war is like in this personal level, because like Emine said, the propaganda tries to nullify this fact that the statistics, the figures, they all tire the eye, but the personal stories, they also tell about the experience of the people, and it's being perceived better by the audience always. So Eurovision is a contest for the broad audience, and the whole spectrum of Ukrainian art, the musical art, literature, sculpture, every painting, everything will be shown there. So we will talk about the war through the art messages. The only thing I would like to add is that recently we opened an exhibition in Diplomatic Academy, the exhibition in the debris of weapon. There were pictures painted on the pieces of the destroyed weapons in the castle of St. Miklos in Mukachevo district, and this exhibition is the expression of resilience. First, the Russian Federation is boasting their weapons, and we create pieces of art in that destroyed weapon, and regardless of the war, we find force inside ourselves to express ourselves through different forms, through language of poetry, through language of literature, language of theater, interactive things, through the language of TikTok, all media possible, because The only thing that makes us different from the animals is the heart and emotions, and knocking on that heart is the key thing that we can talk about in terms of communication. By the way, Ukraine is in top 5 world Instagrams, and we are on top of the global trends. We read the lectures for our international partners in strategic communications. Ukraine is the most powerful communicator in the world. Even the European countries learned from us now. We have more questions on the floor, please. Dmitro Didora Espresso, we say today that Ukraine will be discussed in Liverpool for a number of days, but we know that about the representative of Czech Republic who is Russian. Does the MFA work on that matter, not to let Russians to the contest under the flags of different countries, and the fiancé of that contender was taking pictures clad in the uniform of the Russian army? And another question to Jamala, can you unveil a little bit your performance on the Eurovision? Thank you. Well, I cannot tell you about everything. There were certain communications, but we have to remember that there are certain rules that the organizers of the contest are guided by. So this is in diplomatic terms. I didn't know about about Czech Republic, but I cannot tell you about the final either. Unfortunately, we should continue to keep it mysterious. What I can tell you for sure, I will be singing. It will be beautiful. I will walk out on the stage, but I cannot tell you anything else. So you're in trend with that diplomats. Well, I understand we have the collaboration with Yulia Magnich, with Crimean theater star, the performer. Do we have any more questions on the floor? Please introduce yourself. Roman Kuchoruk, Information Agency Nation. I have 2 questions to Ms. Emine. When will Ukrainian parliament resume the control over appointment of the ambassadors to avoid such cases as with Sofia, you know, the situation? And another question is, does the ambassador of Ukraine in London coordinate his public addresses, public statements with MFA, and if so, with whom personally? And another question is to Jamala, how to get to your concert, when will it be happening? Maybe we will put it outside the brackets, and you will answer it off records. Well, it has nothing to do with Eurovision. Well, for a long time I was concerned with the question where to make that concert. My dream was to build something grandiose in the Spivocha field, but the reality is such that we cannot allow ourselves to have an open air, and we will only allow ourselves to have it happening in a place where the shelter is. So I want to say it for the whole world, in what circumstances we continue doing it. Unfortunately, their tickets are already sold out. It's good that everybody is curious to see this. My PR person Artur is right here, and I hope we will be able to find a spot for you. So everybody goes. Well, if we don't have any more questions from the floor, let's wrap up. We were talking about the Eurovision, how Ukraine changes Eurovision, not only Eurovision, but all the cultural world and diplomacy. And we said that European has won already. Well, our next briefing is at 1500. See you shortly.